Hello everybody, my name is Aud, and welcome back to the Aud Narrations channel. Today we're reading a story about a girl whose girlfriend cheated on her, and she found out about it in the most brutal way imaginable. It reads, "Apologies for the long post. I'm splitting it into a post and a comment, owing to Reddit's character limit." So, the main body of the text reads, I, 25 female, and my now ex-girlfriend, 26 female, were together since we were 14 and 15 respectively. We were each other's first everything. Our relationship was a near fairy tale for the most part. She was the perfect girlfriend I could have asked for. A few aberrations over all those years in form of arguments, none your regular healthy couple couldn't relate with, and as infrequent as they could have come, are all that kept it from being a perfect relationship. To set the context, we recently celebrated her business's previous quarter's financials with a vacation in Mykonos. I don't know the pronunciation. This was in early October, just over a couple months ago. It was all perfect as perfect could be. Our relationship was in cruise control. It was solid right up until the end of October this year. She used to surprise me with these weekend getaways, dates and gifts. Nothing too fancy, but just about enough to make me melt. And then, none of it for well over a month. Nada. She's initiated physical intimacy the most out of us both. She's always had a higher libido than I. Again, none of that for over a month. I had no reason to suspect anything and just brushed it off by attributing it to her work stress. She's been working her arse off for the past 6 years to build the aforementioned business that has finally started paying off its dividends. Of all these changes in the status quo of our relationship, what stuck out most by far was an incident that happened in early November. She was out for a night pub crawling with her girlfriends. Soho pub crawls are kind of a ritual with them. The usual chinwag over drinks. She wanted me to go along, but I couldn't as my local football, Soccer for Americans team, was playing that evening, and being a season ticket holder, I rarely miss their games, if at all. That being said, I've joined in as well and sat out these crawls multiple times over the years. She's almost always acquiesced to me being at a football game over almost any event that's ever clashed with it. Red flag number 1. I get back home just around midnight after heading over to my sister's for a couple pints after the match. She texted me that she'd be late and asked me not to stay up and that her friend, let's call her A, would drop her off. I stayed up anyway and texted A, who's their group's designated driver by the virtue of her sobriety, to drive safely. Imagine my surprise when A said that my ex-girlfriend had left the crawl earlier and had informed her she'd be taking a cab home, much against her girlfriend's protests. Her cab finally pulled up in front of our house around 2 a.m, went in for a kiss when she got back home, and to my horror, she turned away and made her way up to our bed and passed out. Never had she ever turned down a kiss from me up until that point in time. I brushed it off to her being absolutely pissing drunk and let it slide. The next morning, I asked her about returning home in a cab, even though A was supposed to be dropping her off, and she responded saying that she couldn't stay out there any longer owing to a terrible headache and decided to book a cab home, so as to not want her girlfriends having to call it an early night. Now, it takes a maximum of an hour in peak London traffic to get over to our house from Soho. If her timeline is to be believed, she was in the cab for almost 4 hours. She could see me trying to piece it together, but quickly went in for a kiss. My naivete, coupled with love, took over, and I went on with the rest of my day without giving it a second thought. Red flag number 2. Fast forward 3 weeks. I tried getting on her Instagram to delete a story featuring me in an embarrassing pose that she posted and teased over me. We have always known each other's social media logins and passwords to all devices. I tried logging into her Instagram by putting in her username and password, and to no avail. She got a notification and knew I tried to log into her account. It gave me a wry smile and revealed that she changed her password in anticipation of me trying to log in and delete that story. Fair enough. I would go on to accept this version. What I couldn't really wrap my head around was her removing her Instagram profile photo she's had the past 7 years, featuring the both of us, and updated it with a solo photo of herself. I was hurt, but again, my naivety led me to believe it was much ado about nothing. So this post is then continued in a comment, so I'll continue by reading the comment. Post continued. Red flag number 3. D-Day 1. As December was upon us, I was supposed to travel to India, China, and Singapore on a business assignment. My company was to send me over for 26 days, as that's what we'd estimated the maximum time frame we'd be allocated for the project by factoring in the worst case scenarios. We'd never been away from each other for this long, and she was distraught. From what I could tell, she genuinely was, but accepted me going away for that long after a night of us cuddling and crying our eyes out. The next few days were rough on us both. The time zone misalignment restricted us to a limited amount of FaceTime. D-Day, quote unquote, was just 2 weeks into December. On a FaceTime call, I saw what looked like a bra on the floor and immediately recognized it wasn't hers, owing to its color. I asked her about it. She tried to angle the camera such that it was no longer visible and deliberately moved over to that space and pointed the camera at the floor. Of course, it was no longer there. She has to have kicked it out of my sight. My heart was trying its best to dispel any notions of some other girl being there with her, but my eyes wouldn't let me unsee what they saw. I couldn't sleep that night. Red flag number 4, D-Day 2. I'd never gotten over her hiding that bra on the floor from my sight. By this point, doubt was starting to rear its ugly head in. My project was over almost a week before it was expected to, and decided to surprise her with an early homecoming. My cab from the airport was possibly the longest one I ever had to take, or at least it felt like it. All I was thinking on my ride back home was her kiss I'd been deprived of for weeks, but I'd been lying if I told you I couldn't sense an impending doom in the back of my mind, thanks to that FaceTime call. I reach home with a box of chocolates and wine, and I let myself in without any noise, so as to surprise her. All good up to this point. I hear the shower running. I was in half a mind to join her in there, but decided against it in favor of planting myself at the door and recording her reaction on camera. Weirdly enough, our bedroom opens and there she is, wrapped in a towel, about to hit the shower. My mind couldn't comprehend why she'd left the shower and steam running before getting in, but then all of the pieces were falling into place when she saw me, and her face turned pale in trepidation, almost as if she was looking at a ghost and not the girl she's loved all this time. I yelled, "Hey!" and rush into her for a kiss. We kiss, but there's absolutely no reciprocation from her end. Here's how it played out after I pulled away, and she's still looking at me in shock without saying a word. Me. "Babe, are you okay? Why are you looking at me like that? And why is the shower running?" "You were supposed to come back after Christmas." And then she puts in brackets, "Words cannot express how gutted I was the moment she would utter these exact words after us being apart for weeks." Just as I was about to tell her I finished my work earlier than expected, I hear a girl's voice calling out her name from the shower. My legs start shaking at that very moment. Something that I'd only ever seen other people write or say was happening to me. We burst out crying. I slumped against the wall by the bathroom as it started to dawn on me that the supposed love of my life, a girl with whom I'd envisioned growing old, was about to jump into the shower with another girl. She rushed in and asked the other girl to get dressed and escorted her out of the house. I barely got a look at the absolute vixen that turned my life upside down. The she-devil, for whom my ex-girlfriend decided to throw away over a decade of memories. She got down beside me and burst into tears, apologizing profusely. I pushed her away and she hit her head on the bedside table. This was the only time either of us ever got violent. Despite that, she refused to stay away and came back and trying to wrap herself around me. For the next couple of hours, it was more of the same, her being apologetic, groveling, and me crying to the point of passing out on the floor. She picked me up, put me on the bed, and went to fix me some tea. I locked her out and sunk back into the bed for another bout of tears. All this while her trying to explain her actions from the other side of the door. Now comes the worst part of it all. I was rummaging through my wardrobe for our spare stash of marijuana to calm myself down, and realized the gravity of what had transpired. I found a ring with our initials carved into it, and a receipt towards a down payment for the house that we're currently renting, which made her digression hit harder. The girl, the love of my life, was about to make me hers for the rest of our lives. Oh, so close, yet so far. The aftermath. She admitted to having slept with the other girl, the absolute wretched woman she met with on that pub crawl, on multiple occasions. She won't let me leave the house, We split the rent, and instead moved out to the guest bedroom to give me space. I haven't so much as let her touch me ever since that fateful morning. She doesn't know that I know about her plan, or what's left of it, to propose to me. I keep trying to get her to open up over why she'd sell our future for a meaningless fling, but all she has to say for herself is she doesn't know why she did it. She's completely cut off ties with the other girl. I know for a fact that she was nothing more than a fling to her. Yet I don't think I can ever get over a betrayal this immense. What am I looking for here? I'm almost certain that I want to leave her. The only sliver of dread that's holding me back is the fact that I will never love any other girl the way I loved her. This could perhaps change if I were a betting lady, I'd not bet against it. There will always be that, what if I'd given her another chance in the back of my mind, no matter which girl I end up with in the future. She seems to be truly remorseful of her actions. She's been an absolute peach of a girlfriend before this, arguably more so than I ever was. It makes me wonder if I'm to blame a wee bit. If I'd tagged along with her to the bloody pub crawl, and she'd never have met the other girl. Has anyone here ever been betrayed by who they thought was the love of their life, and yet went on to live out that happily ever after? I'm dead on the inside, and devoid of tears at this point as I write this, and ask myself whether I was really not good enough for her. Feels like I've lost in life. Oh, OP. I'm really sorry to hear all this. I'm really sorry. I understand the anger at the other woman, but fundamentally it's your partner is completely to blame there. It's her that's gone against your agreement, to be in the relationship. In a weird way, the other girl hasn't technically done anything wrong. If anything, she's probably done you a favor. There's a stereotype of people panicking just before an engagement or a proposal and kind of lashing out and doing something stupid, all before the wedding, right? Bachelorette parties and bachelor parties, getting up to all kinds of stupid stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still a betrayal. They've still gone back on your trust, and it's up to you whether or not you can work through it. Personally, for me, they'd be gone. I would be moving out of that house as quick as possible. I would probably talk, if you're renting it, to the landlord and explain what the situation is. And then you'd be surprised how many landlords would be happy for you to just move out and then make her pay all the rent. It's a bit petty, but the game's the game. TLDR, the love of my life, at least I thought she was caught cheating by me after returning early from a business trip. Okay, let's have a look at some of the comments. Someone's left a comment saying, she isn't sorry. She's sorry she got caught. She was never going to tell you and end the relationship and get away from her as fast as you can. I think this person's absolutely correct. I mean, it's clearly a sustained thing. It wasn't just a fling. I've just thought about it now. Like, this was going on for a good few weeks. If it was just a fling, it would have happened that one night and it would have never happened again. But this was something a little bit more. She was playing house with a different woman whilst you were working. For the both of you. OP's replied to this, saying, no, she was never going to tell me. You're right about that. I know this from their messages. She wanted it to be nothing more than a brief fling. Someone else left a comment saying, if you didn't come home early, this would still be going on. So, she's really only sorry that she got caught. You deserve better. Sending strength. OP replied to this, saying, thank you for your words, with a heart emoji. Someone else has left a comment saying, she wasn't remorseful of her actions when she was orgasming whilst fucking another woman. She's only remorseful now that she's been caught and has to deal with the repercussions. I'm sorry, but you are an absolute fool to forgive this person. Please remove her from your life and give your heart to someone who deserves it. You can love someone this much. That's who you are, a person who loves and is faithful. That will not change based on who you fall in love with. Don't fall for her lies. She will do this again and hide it better. OP replied to this and quoted the comment saying, quote, quote, you were an absolute fool to forgive this person, to which OP has replied saying, I haven't forgiven her, and I don't think I can. It's just that the memories of over a decade are absolutely overwhelming at this point, and I'm afraid I'll end up alone if/when I leave her, and that I'd never be able to love another girl like her, which would be unfair. So someone else replied to this, to OP, saying, "You can and will love again. This is a lesson we all learn in life. Don't let this fear hold you back from moving on." OP replied, saying, "Thank you. That's encouraging." Someone else has left a comment and has clearly written it on their Samsung fridge, saying, "She only regret that you found out. If you didn't find out, she would have still met the other girl and lived a double life. You may think that she is the love of your life, but the love of your life wouldn't do this to you." Fantastic point. What you have with her is your first love and years of memories. Start a new life away from her. Give yourself time and then start over. You seem like a great girl and you will pull through this. I have been there and done that, and it will get better. Don't settle for a life of heartbreak. And then they write in brackets, "She will do this again, maybe years from now, but it will happen. Every message, every time she goes out, every phone call will make you wonder who she meets, talks to, and so on. The uncertainty will break you mentally." They continue saying, "Give yourself a New Year's promise that you start a new life for yourself, a new future. Down the road, you'll look into the eyes of your real true love, not your current girlfriend, and look back and think, I did it. I'm happy I made it through to the better part of my life. You're still young, and the options your life is opening up to is endless. Take care and do what's best for your future. She has destroyed hers, but I think she'll bounce back to dating in no time. She did date while she was with you. But, yeah, tricky situation, OP. Personally, I would leave that bitch. She's done. She's done. Find yourself a better woman and move on." So, what do you think OP should do? What would you do in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comments. Alrighty, we'll have to leave that there. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.